a second just to get rolling. How y'all doing? All right, got you a special treat this evening. Something I've been working on. This actually incorporates a little bit of Ravenloft as well as DragonLance. This was my attempt to take Raistlin Goes to Ravenloft. Uh, this was When Black Roses Bloom. Now, as far as playing through that, I just went ahead and wrote a short story and did some little vignettes. I could probably turn it into a novel. If y'all want to turn this into a free OGL project, just get a hold of me, whatever. Like I said, I'm going to bequeath this free to you all, okay? Y'all can take this, OGL, whatever the hell, and do what you want with it. I can't stop anybody from using it. Like I said, I'm not monetized, so there you go. All right, I'm going to let this thing roll. And like I said, guys, I'm hoping that it'll be all right. You dig it? Okay. Like I said, this is DragonLance and Ravenloft. Raistlin, Taz, and Astrid confront Ticklemop. And eventually they run into Strahd himself. Yeah. All right, guys, let's get this son of a bitch set up. You'll be ready to rock and roll. Hold on just a second. Let me get my dragon orb dressed over here. Getting on up, do a little dance. Time for some DragonLance. Okay, let's go to gameplay here. Okay, we got a ready screen here. All right, guys, we're gonna rock and roll here in just a second, and we gotta see what the fuck, or excuse my language. All righty, cool. There we go. All right, cool. All right, let me get back on the page. All right. All right, let me start this sucker up.
Tars jumped when he heard a hissing coming from behind the table, not from shock, but the fact that Astrid immediately dove at it with her wooden and steel stakes poised to strike. She wasn't fooling around, as even though the front of her blouse was black from all the soot accumulated from dusting the two vampires on the way up. The tablecloth underneath rustled, and the hideous over-wrinkled Kenda came scuttling forward and poked her head out, hissing at Tars and Astrid, as he raised the blue candle Raistlin had given him. Ticklemop spat and hissed, but seemed to be somewhat tiring. The vampiric Kenda had moved like a stiff paper doll in Sithicus. Here in Strahd's castle she'd suddenly gained the ability to move like a Kenda again. Now, after being relentlessly pursued and smacked in the head with a bag of shimmerweed, her attitude at least changed to surviving instead of trying to eat them. Hold fast. I shall not let this creature get away with what it did to that child. I warn you, Ticklemop. I will be taking you back to Fisburn in a holy sack tied with reins to make sure what is left of you is judged or saved, or I will slay you where you stand when you attack us. Foul smelly disgrace. Betrayer and usurper of Kendakin. I will not let thee escape us, you little monster. Astrid. Tars pleaded, knowing himself it was kind of foolish to feel anything for this foul, insidious creature that had perhaps lured other real Kenda to their deaths, first for Soth and then for Strahd. Ticklemop's life, what it had been, was before the cataclysm. It pained and horrified him worse to see a member of his race be twisted and manipulated into something so evil and a mockery, but also so brittle and stiff and as shambling as a corpse from eons perhaps, of being so bored on a moonlit night she couldn't do anything but wail and blubber beside her coffin. The hissing grew louder. Ticklemop started mewling and groveling as she cradled the cracked sparkling amulet still glowing in her talons. She somehow didn't seem to be interested in them at all, so much as she stared into the gem, her dead sickly green clouded eyes washing over in a mockery of what may have been infatuated wonder in her former life. She does not hear you anymore, Kenda. Raistlin's voice suddenly appeared out of the dark. He stepped forward once and tapped the staff of Magus right on top of the table, as he heard her scurrying back down the length of it. He passively waited, not even bothering to chase after her. And do you know what Strahd actually offered this wretched one? A chance to go back out at night and feed instead of being required to weep beside her coffin. Raistlin smirked. How very Kenda-like, but then his expression changed to a hard wall of contempt. I am sorry Tasselhoff Barefoot and Astrid for what I must do to this creature. In its current state it cannot be allowed to go on, for I have actually found why it exists. The child was not real, Astrid. It was a shade of someone from a memory, but it was used to compel horror in you, my poor Kender, and manipulate your emotions. Strahd knew this, so the feeding you witnessed was another of his sick attempts to manipulate you. The other phylactery was meant for you instead of Azrael. No, Raistlin, Tars said indignantly. There are easier ways to do this. Suddenly Tars realized in actual horror what Raistlin might do if Astrid got in his way. Astrid furiously threw her arms up and turned her back to Tars while watching Ticklemop. Stupid duck weasel! Astrid squealed, Cousin Tars. You must not let him destroy her until we have taken her back to Fizban. He said if we do not return her intact we are to destroy her ourselves. Astrid huffed, insisting they do the latter and not kill Ticklemop, as she wanted to very much study this vampire Kender as much as she could. It has been the key all along, while Soth has been trapped in the mirrors of his memories, a light that once burned brightest in Kyrnn reduced as a lure into the dark plains of dread. She has been used first by Soth and then by Strahd, but it was Strahd who initially led Ticklemop here, for after all she is why Sithicus retains its domain. The light left in her soul is the beacon from the prime material that draws unwary into the realms of dread through the mists of Ravenloft. As long as Strahd retains Ticklemop in his dominion he can hold Soth back indefinitely. If Ticklemop ceases to be in this realm, Strahd can and will enter Barovia one final time to challenge Strahd, and the Black Nebula will indeed befall us. Barovia and Sithicus must have masters. If there are none, the nebula engulfs all. Sir Magus Magia. That will destabilize the possibility of us leaving here. Astrid interjected. We leave the big bullies to fight each other and we take Ticklemop back to Fizban, yeah? Yes, of course, Raistlin nodded to Astrid. Damaris. For a second Tars saw his slyest little smirk, as Flint used to call it, and realized the black-robed mage was up to something. For I to confront Soth or Strahd, we must give them an incentive to show themselves to each other. Meanwhile, dear Kender, as soon as I do this, you must realize that you are to run directly back out and use the portal key. Fizban will be waiting for you in the safety of the sanctuary. Raistlin. Tars squeaked, you can't do this. That means you get to talk to Strahd alone, and sorry, but I got a few things to say to that fartbag myself. Hez is a fat liar. He tried to hurt Tanis and Laurana. They're okay, by the way. That's why the portal came in handy, because we got them back home. Me and Astrid are really here to back you up, Raistlin. We're Kender. Humans always say we aren't afraid of anything, and now we get to prove it. You used the key already? Raistlin cocked an eyebrow and immediately grimaced in disgust. I have just enough ability to send any of you back again. Raistlin smirked. It was intended for myself, however, due to unforeseen circumstances either Strahd or Soth must be stopped. Only one of us gets to go home. Really? Suddenly Astrid realized what he was saying, and she immediately shrieked and started wailing as Tars tried to console her. Nain. I will face Strahd with you, but you must not kill Ticklemop. Astrid's bravery matched Tasselhoff's. She hastily undid her satchel and handed Tars the phylactery bottle they'd acquired from Azrael. The still glowing goop in the cylinder slid lazily like a lava lamp inside. Take this one, we already have back to Fizban. No, Raistlin said flatly. Tasselhoff will remain with me, you my. Young Kendermaid will go on to live a happy fruitful life on Kyrnn once more and remain. Nain. Astrid stomped her feet and screamed, no. No, Nain, no. Act. She started wailing and grabbing at Tars. I won't leave you here. I know you won't. Tars said. You can't make her leave, Raistlin. We promised my mom we'd save Ticklemop any way we could. And you will. Raistlin was interrupted by Ticklemop coming screaming back down the table, but this time she was looking at Astrid. Damaris crying, and she started cackling. Asterisk. The room suddenly started to shift and weave. Tars felt a horrible sensation of blood rushing into his ears and then felt a sharp painful throbbing that made his head hurt. In an instant before Ticklemop could continue mocking and laughing at Astrid, who was actually holding her own ears and screaming, and complaining about not going, to even notice Raistlin slip his dagger along his palm and cut his own hand. Raistlin didn't bother to watch Astrid or Tar's reaction. Instead, Ticklemop, suddenly attentively aware that Raistlin was bleeding, sprang at him from underneath the table, snarling and foaming at the jowls at the opportunity to taste blood again. In one swift instant, as she made for him, he deftly caught her by the topknot and in an instant held her fast, screaming and clawing at him. Ticklemop growled and then screamed in surprise and pain as a brilliant flash of energy burst directly from Raistlin's hand into the stunned vampiric Kenda, causing its entire form to catch like a burning ember from a forge, her body atomized, and somehow Raistlin, with the same manipulative force he'd used to tear her in half, held a glowing, dripping mass of yellow-purple goo, which he then, without skipping a beat, asked Astrid to hand him the other empty phylactery vial, the amulet which Ticklemop had carried. Raistlin tucked into the pocket of his robes, pausing only to mutter a few words to ensure it was indeed Kitiara's cipher. The glowing mass of goop made a chirping noise on the floor, and Raistlin held the phylactery out. The goop almost instinctively piled all of itself into the chamber as if to seek safety. But Astrid blinked back tears as Raistlin encased the glowing mass in the tube and released his control of the phylactery to her. "What must I do with this? I am no Magus Sir Magia." "Fizban," said Ticklemop, "she can be saved, but you just really made a mess. She is all drippings and goo. I cannot ask her question in that state. You must not open this. Act, it is messy. Mine shoes." "Eek." Astrid wrapped the phylactery up in a cloth and stuffed it back into the satchel, but she refused to put it back anywhere on her person other than carry it as necessary. "This was stupid, Sir Magus Magia. I hope you know what you're doing. Cousin Tars, do we flip coins? Or do we go ahead and let this duckweasel tell us what to do?" Author's note: my introduction to DragonLance was a tale about Tars, a vampire, and Henry used a snuff can of Skull Bandit's cherry flavor asterisk as a coin to determine the odds. I got grounded because I stayed out all day. No, I didn't dip. Yuck. Sickest I ever got at 8 years old. Swallowed some dip juice accidentally when I tried a dip. See, our parents weren't casually worried about us picking up dipping or chewing tobacco because it was gross. Anyways, we used a snuff can. Redneck is Kenda backwards. You have no other choice. Astrid Damaris, I ask that if you wish to honor your family and tell the tale of Tasselhoff Barefoot, please do so alive. Raistlin winced as echoes of the Sotha's ghastly keening all the way from Sithicus as an ominous low wail of wolves indicated something was about to be wrong, echoed through the chambers of every inch of the castle darkness. Soth would be on his way to see Strahd as well, and that's exactly what Raistlin wanted. At once the droning austere echo of Strahd's pipe organ began to emanate again from somewhere in the castle, possibly an attempt to drown out the cacophony of the Death Knight Sotha's crooning. Act. Offense to da ears, stupid lying fart gobble cannot sing. Astrid mocked, holding her earmuffs and grimacing. Strahd's not bad with that organ. Tars added, but then winced when it got louder, and then so loud he himself had to look at Raistlin and realize if it had not been for them being Kenda in the first place, half the magical traps laid out through Strahd's castle would have killed them. From horror, winking sad smiley. Kenda are also highly immune to magic within the prime material sphere of Kryn, and to an extent in Ravenloft, albeit they risk the material danger of extended periods there if they survive as possibly altering them, and not in a good way. Go, now. Raistlin wheezed, Astu Zalem. The small crackles of a portal key spell began to flit into the dark space and open like a wide mirror. Tars looked at Astrid sorrowfully and nodded. He hugged her and indicated that she had to do so, although his slight half-Kenda smile meant maybe he didn't entirely want her to leave him alone with Raistlin and Strahd, and not at least see Raistlin, to quote Astrid, smack his hiney. Yah. Asterisk back to the safety of the sanctuary beyond the grasp of Ravenloft, the island demoplane that Fizban had agreed to have them brought. DMS note: it is imperative you may or may not reveal this to the players depending on whether the PCs use a Vistani Seer crystal ball to send a temporary SOS out of the plane of dread space to hopefully get them home. The optional choice would have the players meet Fizban in the Outlands, so this demoplane of safety you are connected to. Once again, the concept of the portal key that Pez used in everything but the Minotaurs applies here. Asterisk, remember he farted and they jumped into the portal? This also allows player unfamiliar with Sigil to be introduced to the Spire, As Sigil will be closed off to the players outside the normal channels, Tars and Raistlin are thrown into Sigil by Strahd no matter what. They are separated integrally to different parts of the aesthetic. We'll hub of Sigil. Whatever happens outside of these events as observers is up to the DM. The keening grew louder. Tars looked to see the portal now open and freely sparking. It looked quite beautiful and particularly interesting and inviting. Unlike this place, Astrid was missing out on what was sure to be an adventure hanging around Strahd's dump, and he certainly didn't want her to be stuck bored sitting beside a coffin on moonlit nights listening to the stupid fart gobbler play his organ musics all night and wah wah wah. As Astrid put it, the room and the antechamber suddenly expanded and lit up as they found themselves shifted to an elaborate throne room. As expected, a huge pipe organ blared as an ominous black figure furiously hammered on the keys and sneered at them in contempt as he mashed on the final note. Tars noticed he'd not bothered to wipe his lips since tearing the seneschal's throat out earlier before Raistlin had also introduced the henchman to the phylactery vial he'd intended for them. The price of failure, and Strahd was not pleased. His face was now changed, and it was clear his vampiric nature was evident in how he found no need in being discreet or polite, as he put it, any longer. There is that stinking lying fart weasel. I see him behind that organ there. Astrid pointed and stomped her feet. Smack his hiney. Smack it. Raistlin smirked and with one hand reached around and grabbed Astrid. Tars immediately panicked because he knew it might hurt Astrid. Astrid squealed, however, as Raistlin grabbed the back of her pants and helped toss her into the portal. Luckily, in surprise, Tars did indeed see the bewildered faces of Tanis and Laurana on the other side of the portal, peering helplessly, but attentively to what had just appeared before them. On the other side of the portal, the little Kendermaid was sent squealing and bawling into the waiting but safe arms of Laurana and Tanis. Not to be outdone, she tried to wheel around and jump back in, crying and kicking at Tanis, half elven, but also overjoyed to see him alive and okay and not turned into an undead or a vampire. She looked back sadly to see the slight awful sadness in Cousin Tars' eyes that she might not ever see him again, but also his nod that he wanted her safe and able to tell the story just in case, like his Kender dad, he never made it back. The portal snapped shut, and in that instant, Tars and Raistlin were alone with the Lord of Barovia, Strahd von Zarovich, in all his full vampiric glory. You! Strahd sneered at Raistlin. I am lord of this realm of dread. I am the land. The madness of Soth has compelled me to take Krynn as my own. Why should I allow your Dark Queen dominion in my kingdom, a star in my skies, when she champions you as her arbiter, you as her hand, a mortal? A weak husk, who allowed himself a pact with a parasite of a wizard Fistandantalus. Oh yes, I now know who you served, Raistlin Magir of Krynn, master of the Tower of Wayreth. A red-robed mage too fragile and weak as a mortal to hold his staff. The gold skin and hooglass eyes, a curse of your pact to save you during your test of magehood. You cheated. Sly you. But you are no more capable of deserving your powers as a mortal, no more than I did. Your magic will become mine. I will consume your husk, and then Soth will kneel before me, go back to invade and make all Krynn my domain. I gave you a chance to get rid of Soth and leave my land, albeit with the price of the elf maiden for my bride, or the alluring woman within the amulet. Such prizes will both be mine again. Their life forces will sustain me and satiate my lust as a bargain for what I take if you do not comply with me. I shall drain your souls. Strahd sneered. You're ugly. But that's an impressive pipe organ, Tars piped up. He couldn't think of anything more fitting to say, as Strahd has a really impressive pipe organ, and he really wanted to try pressing the keys on it, but he also thought Strahd was a jerk. And the nightmare thing was him overcompensating and trying to show off to Raistlin like he was some sort of big thing. But Tars could spot someone who thought his crap didn't stink, and this Strahd was full of crap. He was just so full of himself. Vampire or not, he was just a stuffy, arrogant former human who, as Fizban said, there is a reason why humans only live about 100 or so years. They get too familiar with how the sauce is made for the stew, and they think they can sneak a few extra bowls for themselves. Don't get greedy, Kender lad. A rational person knows they don't need anything but a good heart and an open mind. Plus he was rude, plus he had lied to Tanis and Laurana about letting them leave. Strahd sneered, and shifted his gaze to the Kender who stood defiant staring up at him next to Raistlin. He'd seen halflings of other races in his domain before, but these Kender were somewhat of an oddity to him. Also, they weren't afraid of him. Both of these things were problematic in his eyes, and that infuriated him. This little being had successfully evaded his attempts to kill and capture his soul. Ticklemop was the last straw. He couldn't manipulate and control Soth without the Kender's link to the Grey Gem artifact on Krynn. Takesis has taunted him that the Grey Gem held the Kender fast to Krynn, and no matter of tampering could ever break their lifeline to Krynn, as it was much a part of Krynn as she was a part of everything. The enchanter had kept Soth distracted in the mirrors. Ticklemop entered his domain, leading others there over centuries, to eventually lure the greatest prize Raistlin Magia, trick him into entering the mists of Ravenloft, and then destroy him once and for all, usurp the right to be the Dark Queen's arbiter of justice and invade Krynn, or trap Raistlin forever in Sithicus to deal with Soth and succumb to his power once the Black Nebula engulfed the planet. "Shut up," Strahd said flatly to the Kender. You could hear a pin drop. Tars indignantly started to talk again, and Strahd raised an eyebrow and said again, deeply and more insistent, "Shut up. Oh, you go jump in a privy pit, you smelly arsed half-brain." Tars immediately flew so fast into Kender taunt mode that Strahd blinked several times in disbelief that the Kender was still going and not stopping. Raistlin himself smirked in memory, recalling a long-ago envy of his youth that he wished he'd had the ability to taunt and enrage bullies the way the Kender used to, and this time it was a little 4-foot Kender telling the Lord of Barovia to go suck a fart out of a nightmare's backside and then breathe it out on a torch like I saw this person do at a carnival one time. But no, seriously, suck a fart, Quas, you really are a piece of lying refuse, Strahd, and I hope you crap your pants at the most inopportune time. Although I don't know if vampires eat anymore and have to go, but if you do I hope it really inconveniences you, because frankly buddy, you are a complete butthole. You are rude. Plus you can't even do magic even half as good as Raistlin. Magia can, he forgot more than you ever knew about magic, you hedge wizard. You couldn't carry Fizban's hat, which is okay because he can't either, because he always loses it. I'm pretty sure if you touched his hat and tried to put it on, it would explode you like a firework. That would be great. That's it. Strahd flinched a split second just in time to sneer at the Kender and move, but before he did, Raistlin, in an immediate act of self-defense, uttered one word. Shirak. The staff of mages flared to life and Strahd defiantly grabbed a hold of it. His eyes burned with hate and rage as he towered over Raistlin with his hand grasping the hilt of the dragon-clawed tip. He leered in defiance at Raistlin and bared his fangs. The light got brighter. Astulath Lalaris a Lalarath. Strahd screamed at him as Raistlin uttered a few final words. The staff flared and a massive crackle of thunder blasted Strahd upwards as he and Raistlin held onto the staff as the concussive shockwave attempted to force them both away from the staff. Raistlin's hourglass eyes flashed in a contemptible silent sneer of satisfaction as he watched an absolute look of genuine surprise and horror cross Strahd von Zarovich's face right before the inevitable happened. Garh! Strahd screamed and yelled as a tangle of blue electricity and fire snaked its way up the staff from the ground out of the top of the staff, and all over the left side of his body, still grasping the staff. He let go because he was now a flaming torch. His screaming continued louder, and Strahd immediately broke away to zip around the room in an impressive shower of sparks and confusion and smoke. Tars stood and watched the vampire change forms almost 3 times in 1 second. Becoming a bat and realizing he was still on fire, trying to get away from Raistlin, has assumed a mist form, but wasn't doing a good job of keeping it stable because he crawled around on the floor now like Raistlin used to when he would cough up blood. His half-vampire, half-human features morphing and twisting before settling again into an ugly feral beast. He was albeit now hideously burned and deformed. Strahd gasped at Raistlin in surprise and rage. His mouth opened and he attempted to speak, but his jaw gave way. However, it wasn't because he was disintegrating. No. Strahd was growing bigger. His muscles and limbs started to harden and take the shape of a massive ogre-like monster. He was still ugly. Dripping blood. Gallons of it. One eye was gone. The other gleamed with a red glare to match Sotha's. Raistlin and Tars watched part of the burned husk of flesh fall away from Strahd's body only to congeal into a mass that started to fuse with him, and make him larger. The man-vampire grew until he was 7 feet, 10 feet. Massive amounts of blood and fluid congealed in a mass around Strahd's legs and arms. Raistlin held onto the staff of Magus and uttered the word. Dulac. As if to mock Strahd. The staff winked out, giving the monster a second to process that Raistlin has just burned the living hells out of him, literally speaking. He tapped the end of the staff on the stone and smirked at Strahd, who was now limping, almost crawling back toward his throne to sit down and recuperate. His eye blazed with hate. He stumbled against the pipe organ, making it screech in an insulting manner with the pressing off odd keys. They'd humiliated Strahd. Yep, Tars looked at Raistlin. He's really mad now.
Oh boy, what y'all think of that? Oh man, well, if it played out fairly well, it ought to be pretty good, but like I said, that is for the DragonLance community to use. It comes completely from AD&D 2nd edition lore. Hold on just a second here, guys. Just as a little opt-out, we'll go ahead and play the Strahd's Possession intro. Won't we? Okay, hold on just a second here, guys. Let me get it pulled up again. Let me see where we're at. I don't even know. Hold on just a second. Yeah, I didn't play that yesterday. Okay, so I can close that out. Alright, hold on just a second here, guys. Alright, I can close that. Okay. Hopefully that went out alright. Just a second here. But yeah, part of that is based on the module called When Black Roses Bloom. That's part of taking Raistlin to Ravenloft. Now it's got some more to it. It's got some Planescape going in there. You'll see. But anyway, this is completely non-monetized, guys. But this is for all y'all, the OGL, DragonLance community. I had to demonstrate that Raistlin was bad enough that he could dispatch of somebody in a single paragraph. That's for talking shit about me telling everybody that Raistlin was an asshole. Let's put it this way. He can hold his own. Okay? Especially Black Road Raistlin. So there you go. Okay? Alright, guys. Hold on just a second here and let me get the rest of this rolling here. And we'll rock it in and rolling here. Hold on just a second. Come on. Where we at? Oh, it's under R. There it is. I don't remember what the hell it was under. Be patient with me for just a second here, guys. Just a second here, guys. Ah, shit. Hold on. Just a second. I think y'all can see that. There you go. Yeah, y'all can see it. Good deal. Alright. On you, York.
Having recently returned from patrol, the comrades of Lord Belt walked the corridors of High Hall, approaching the quarters of Elturel's sovereign lord. Word of the unforgivable is in the land. Forces without virtue, it is whispered. Forces both powerful and corrupt, plot against food Lord Belt. In a rush of explosive magic, the door of the Belt Hall is torn asunder. It is too late. With each stride toward the door comes the icy realization of failure. Amid the debris lie Delt and the mage Baranta Chanson, still alive, yet both mauled by the ferocity of the attack.
Thank the gods you're here with us. By helm, if only a moment sooner. The assassin who sought our lives has failed, but in his hand lies the holy symbol of Helm, the amulet torn from me as we fought. The cutthroat moves quickly toward the forest beyond the castle. Stop him and retrieve the amulet! Go now!
A vow to Helm is sworn in Delt's presence, and the quest begins. Never shall the Lord of Elturel see his comrades again, until the amulet is safely in their hands. At the gate, an order to raise the portcullis is given. It ascends all too slowly for those whose blood seethes with anger over the assault on Lord Delt. Hours later and far beyond the hearths and homes of Elturel, the assassin's trail leads into an autumn wood. The apparent peace and beauty of the setting belies its danger.
I love this logo. Oh, the original TSR logo, baby. But I wanted to hop on here and do that. I'm going to check that, make sure where it went through. If y'all want to get up on that, the project I was working on is called Burfoot. It's mine. Like I said, it's OGL. I'm not affiliated with Wizards of the Coast in any capacity. Don't care to be. But for the DragonLance community, this is for you guys. Okay? You guys can use it. Margaret Weiss, Tracy Hickman, you guys are more than welcome to use it. Like I said, I know y'all weren't too keen on taking DragonLance to Ravenloft or any of that sauce shit. I mean, that was TSR stuff that y'all didn't really want done. However, us kids that grew up, we took that gaming material and we made it something. I'm telling you. I mean, it still works, and it's awesome. Okay? We take them on adventures, man. I'm telling you, it works. All right, y'all. But anyways, this is Engine Joe. Man, is it not obvious that I'm a DragonLance fan? Okay? All that art on my walls. You think? Okay, guys. But anyways, we'll holler at you a little bit later. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Like I said, like and subscribe. I'm going to port this over to YouTube, and you can watch it there too, okay, if you want to. But that's where it'll be at. You'll be able to watch it. I'm also on Twitter, or X as it's called now. Like I said, it's 18 and up on the Twitter. But YouTube, like I said, most of my DragonLance stuff is pretty much PG-13 to an extent. But like occasionally I do drop an F-bomb on occasion. But it's each to their own. This content is 100% free. It's OGL. Okay? So, anywho, y'all, we'll holler at you in a little bit. Check this out. Go back and watch my other videos. Check out Burfoot, the Tasselhoff origin story that explains about him and his father. But we'll holler at you a little bit later, guys. All right, y'all. This is Engine Joe. Roll on. Woohoo.